innocent high school girl lured to OnlyFans? This is an epidemic in schools across the nation, and it was actually predicted by a researcher 10 years ago.
Yeah, and so we're gonna jump in and look at this prediction in just a second, but first, let's take a look at this horrifying story from this TikTok star.
14 years old, my friends and I would always make jokes about how it was okay if we failed a class, because at the end of the day, we could always just turn around when we turn 18 and be a stripper. Now, this started off as me just having edgy humor, just repeating these kinds of jokes and memes that I saw online. At 15 years old, I had a TikTok account where I posted intensely provocative content of myself. I had hundreds of thousands of followers. I created a global trend. I made money on live streams, and I started to get offers in my DMs and my emails for being in music videos. I started getting offers to sell content under the table, of course.
So she, at 15 years old, had a following of hundreds of that. Like, she has like over 200,000 followers on TikTok, like right now. And obviously, like, she's older. She's a legal adult. Like, she's not 15 anymore. But the fact that like she was able to get that kind of following and then was able to even post such provocative imagery, and then that drew in this whole entire audience that was wanting more explicit imagery from her, which is absolutely wild.
That's crazy that there's so many people that want that imagery. That's weird to think about.
Absolutely. Well, and the fact that she's only 15 and this is happening, like she was...
That's the weird part.
That's the weird part. Like, she was fully like on her way to OnlyFans, unfortunately, but she continues on what this looked like.
Those jokes and those memes suddenly within a year went from something impersonal and distant to real. A real possibility, a real prospect, a normal endeavor that I could actually pursue and be successful in.
So that's really interesting. We saw this, so that at the age that she was when she was talking about this, timeline wise, like we were in the classrooms like almost every single day talking about trafficking and what it looks like, how to stay safe from exploitation. And we saw this trend where more of these jokes and concepts were like way more common, where students were seeing this kind of stuff as like legitimate job opportunities and not a form of like exploitation. And
it was just like some people's choices of what they want to do with their lives.
And that perspective became way more popular around this time. With like the explosion of OnlyFans and with a lot of that digital content happening. But the thing that actually got Yasmin into softcore corn is so normal that nobody understands just how dangerous this is. And she actually goes on to talk about it.
Here's why I'm making this video. There was nothing out of the ordinary in my daily life that would procure this kind of hypersexual, objectified view of the world and of myself.
So what she means there is like there was no essay, there was no like crazy trauma that would kind of like prompt her into that kind of behavior, in a lot of the other stories that we see.
My 14-year-old brain. What did it? How did I wind up at 15 years old basically being a soft creator on TikTok? Well, I had completely unregulated, unlimited access to the internet. All of these ideologies, all of the influences are actually not just in your backyard, but in the device that your child is holding. It is completely naive to think that
that's such a big deal. I think just the fact that like there's so many voices that young people have access to that are forming who they are. There's so much competition for young people's identity as they grow up that I think without, even more so than ever now, without parents being like, almost feeling like they have to overinvest in it, it's a vulnerability.
Absolutely. Well, and there's no filter, right? Like, and not in the sense of like not getting access to these things, but like social media, those ideologies, those perspectives are just like thrown in your face rather than actually being able to work it out with safe people in your life and other adults that can think through things in a different way than like when you're young and like a teenager, to be able to be like, hey, do we feel like this is a good idea, bad idea? Is this beneficial to you or not beneficial to you, right? Like, it's all the bias on social media is just like thrown in our face without having like the critical thinking ability in the moment. The algorithms are not designed for that, which is her point, and how it actually like formed her whole entire path as well.
Billion-dollar industries aren't methodical and sophisticated in the way that they interact with the media, especially young audiences, in order to recruit new addicts and new products. It would be naive to believe that there aren't literal vultures online after your children, grooming your kids, desensitizing them using neutral language like stars and models, and normalizing even this lifestyle by platforming girls who make podcasts about life advice, and do get ready with me's and go on brand trips, showcasing their life of luxury and ease.
So that's really interesting too, because she's talking about like this neutral language of models and stars. Like, we see that in traffickers and predators online and how they're recruiting young people. But then she's also pointing out that like Bop House and OnlyFans and these other like stars are using the same kind of language to kind of almost like groom a generation into thinking that that stuff's like normal and okay.
Yeah, that's what we would like. If a pimp or trafficker is doing that, we would call that like a CEO pimp, or like recruiting as like a professional.
Yeah. Yes. And then yet she's saying that that's just how the algorithms work and how the platforms work and how the influencers work.
Came from, yes, of course, doing OnlyFans, being porn stars. Your daughters are watching these YouTubers and creators that they seemingly grow up with, you know, girls who are a few years older than them. They're growing up with them, watching their kids' content, and they're watching that influencer at the second they turn 18, turn over and open up an OnlyFans. This is the cultural climate that we're living in. The internet is grooming your children.
And that's the mic drop. The internet is grooming our kids. Normalizing this, like she talked about. It got normalized for her. But this was actually predicted by a researcher 10 years ago. Like this whole entire dynamic that Yasmin is talking about, Dr. Gail Dines has been researching the impact of porn for more than 30 years. And over 10 years ago, she actually did a TED Talk that actually predicted this exact experience that Yasmin just described. So let's check this out.
So here is a magazine called Details, which is like Cosmopolitan for men. And they had an article called How Internet Porn is Changing Teen Sex. And they interviewed a pornographer called Joanna Angel. And she said the girls these days, they just seem to come to the set porn ready. What does that mean? What I'm going to say is that this culture is socializing our young girls to be ready for pornography, whether they ever end up on a porn site or not. And the reason for that is they are...
Okay, so that's exactly what Yasmin was just talking
Literally.
about.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like her story is the example. And like this TED Talk was 10 years ago.
Guys.
And this is a researcher. She's like a sociologist. Like she knows what she's talking about. And she's saying that this is how this is working. That is wild. She was able to predict this that long ago. And then it was actually happening. Not only was it like a prediction, but it was actually starting to happen.
Yeah, and so what's crazy is that Gail was having this conversation before social media had really taken off the way it is now. Like TikTok wasn't a thing, OnlyFans wasn't a thing. And so she's going to talk exactly how this happens next.
So in media theory, we have a concept called the reader inscribed in the text. So look at this woman. Look at her clothes. Look at her face. Look at her posture. And look at her gaze, G-A-Z-E. Now, who is she speaking to? Because the notion is that every image has a reader in mind.
So she's talking about the actual like science behind like media and like marketing. And so every single image, every single marketing ploy has a reader in mind. It's like the audience, the person that they're trying to speak to in this, that they want a response from.
Right.
Before you answer, do you think she's speaking to a mother saying, let's go for a cup of coffee after the photo shoot? So who's she talking to? Who's she speaking to? Men. And what's she saying? Me. Would you all agree? So this is what...
Hide your wife, hide your kids.
Right.
Gail's a phenomenal researcher, but she just says it like it is. So
Right. We actually met her and got to see her talk through some of this. And she's very entertaining.
she's hilarious. I love her, but she's absolutely right on that image and what it's communicating.
what I call the f me look. And there's not a woman in this room who couldn't right now go into the f me look. Am I right? Does this look right? With your vulnerable neck, looking with your eyes like this. Now, I want you...
So that kind of goes back to like Yasmin talking about what she did. Like a 14-year-old got on TikTok and knew exactly how to do that look and take pictures that were provocative and get that kind of attention, right? And to Gail's point, like that is the social grooming that is happening. Like girls coming to the porn sets, like already ready for everything, because of that cultural grooming, like she's talking about. And she's looking at like, this is a magazine picture. Like this is like a Victoria's Secret picture or something like that.
So like, again, to the point of this conversation happening before social media was a thing, how much more effective is it that like influencer teens that were 12 when they started their platforms, that girls that were 8 and 9 started following them at that point have now grown up.
It's dangerous.
Like it's scary and makes sense that we have gotten where we are and are seeing these stories, looking at what's been building up this whole time.
Absolutely. And Gail talks about the two options that all of this, everything we're talking about, actually gives girls. And it's pretty wild.
I want you to think what it means to be male and grow up in a culture where before you can even speak, Females are offering themselves to you.
That's
come
dangerous.
get
Gosh,
me,
that's
come
so
get
bad.
me.
I mean, I think that speaks to when Yasmin was talking about just all the DMs and messages she was getting, like guys are responding to that in that way.
Well, I feel like it creates almost like this sexual entitlement on like a level that is very dangerous and unhealthy. Like when you start to like, that's not going to translate well into relationships, right? Like, but then here I think is where she talks about the options that it gives girls in this society and how it's grooming us.
Young girls is when they are developing their sexual identity, what they learn is they have two choices, either fuckability or invisibility.
I remember the first time I watched this video and her saying that like hit me in the chest. Like it was like a gut punch. Like it was something, as soon as she said it, I was like, I know exactly what that feels like those options. And I remember when I was growing up, when I started to feel that, like I remember starting to feel that pressure in like 5th grade. That was before social media.
Dang.
Like that was not even a thing when I was like in 5th grade, and I still felt that pressure. And I remember even showing my mom this video and she had the same reaction
Holy cow.
as I did. Like she was like a, 80s high school, like really fun,
Right.
like time where social media was just like not a thing. Like you had a couple channels on TV, and yet she still felt that pressure.
Yeah, well, I think I remember hearing Gail talk about that. She's in the age demographic where she remembers her body being her own in that shift happening. And what I think is crazy is that your mom doesn't have a memory of that and that you don't have a memory of that.
That's wild. Oh man, that's so true. But that whole piece, and I think that that phrase, even though it's like a bit like vulgar and not like appropriate for like all of our audiences that like we talk to, I think rings just very, very true. Like there's been some like upperclassmen, like high school level like classes that are like criminal justice law, that we can like have more of these kind of conversations with versus like our middle school, like freshman classes.
Right.
And it's crazy to see the girls' faces in the classroom when we show them that part of the clip. Like it just like sobers up and they're all like, yep, I know exactly what that feels like.
That's so sad.
But there's also like a deviant part of this too. Like Dr. Dyens goes on to talk about how predators are actually admitting to her that this hyper-sexualized media is even making it easier for them to essay kids. So this goes beyond just the personal impact on girls like Yasmin or me or my mom, like individuals. This is, and on the victim side, for lack of like a better term, this is actually impacting the perpetrator side as well.
So what does this mean to be a young girl? When I was struggling with thinking what's happened in this culture, you know who really told me what it was? It wasn't someone with a PhD in sociology or psychology. It was actually incarcerated child rapist I like to call Dick. Now, Dick was in prison
sassy,
for
guys.
raping his 12-year-old stepdaughter. And he was explaining to me how he groomed her. And grooming is what you do when the perpetrator hones in on his victim, starts to develop a relationship with her, and then tell her that what really matters is how hot she is, that she's really sexy, she's hot. And by the
So that's what like the grooming process is really what we focus on in like our programs and talking about how to stay safe from sex trafficking and exploitation. We don't use like that kind of language, but that's like what she's talking about here with like this child predator and what we talk about with traffickers. Like that's what they're trying to do. It's all a grooming process, and it looks very, very similar. One's just making profit off of it and the other one's using it for their own like personal gratification.
time you actually make your move, she's bonded to you, and she thinks the most important thing about herself is that she's hot. Now, Dick was explaining to me how he groomed his stepdaughter, and then he looked me straight in the eye and he said, the culture did a lot of the grooming for me. And I have to tell you, I nearly fell off my chair.
Guys, this is exactly what Yasmin was saying.
Yes.
Like literally to a T. And so it's so insane that what Gail was talking about a decade plus ago, not only was it true then, but it has become insanely more true now, to where it's not just like, again, individuals like she's talking about. It's not just mass media grooming adults that are over the age of 18, but it's mass media grooming children into this content as well.
And then it's enabling the predators as well, because like we know that the average age of exposure to porn is between 8 and 11 years old. What that does to the brain is the same as if they were being like physically essayed. And so you already have on a media level boundaries being crossed in significant ways. lies. And that just has desensitized a whole entire generation to that. And now it's not just a matter of like debating like my body, my choice, like I can do whatever I want with my body. Like you can't legislate that type of a deal when we're talking about like sex work and stuff. It goes beyond that. We're now enabling predators in a way that has never existed before on a mass scale because of this desensitization. We talk about this in the classroom of what we call cultural grooming. This has made exploitation normal to where it's actually harder now for young people to recognize exploitation, recognize when something is harmful to them, because it's been so normalized in society and the media that they're being exposed to.
Totally. And that's where we really feel like there's a danger to this media. And the point that we feel that's important for you to know is that it is inherently exploitive, and that this is leading girls into doing porn and making it easier, like you're just saying, for predators to recruit.
And so we're not like the modesty police in this. All we're saying is that we believe that you have inherent value, and this kind of media is inherently harmful. There's consequences to this kind of media. And so we believe that you deserve to know about it. We're seeing a whole entire generation get trapped into things like into exploitation through things like OnlyFans, through child porn, through sextortion scams. And so because we believe every person has inherent value, like bodies shouldn't be products. Because your value goes beyond just what your body can do for another person. There shouldn't be like a price tag on that for someone else's like self-gratification.
Yeah. And so we know that like a lot of these messages, the content that Bop is putting out, or like all these different platforms, they can look cool and fun and harmless, but they're actually leading to exploitation. Absolutely. And Gail Dine's research proves that. And we saw Yasmin's story backs that up completely. And man, I just even wonder too, like if we had gotten to be in a classroom that Yasmin at her school, like could her story have even been different? Is just the education on this conversation like enough to steer young people away from being groomed? And we see that young people are able to make those choices with this information.
Well, because in the classroom, we're not giving like a more morality lecture, right? Like Dr. Gail Dines, like she's a sociologist, like she's not bringing morality into it. She's talking about the impact. And so when we can present the facts to young people, then it helps them critically think when they come across these messages and this media to be like, do I actually want this a part of my life? Do I believe in the presuppositions that go into making content like this, right? About myself, about other people, about how the world works. And so then they're able to start critically thinking through things and being able to make choices that feel in alignment for them that they're not going to regret later on in life. Like Yasmin talks about later, like you can't get those images off the internet. Like once they're on, they're on the internet. And so what if we can give young people the tools to think it through in a way that they otherwise wouldn't be able to if they didn't understand? Legitimately, research points to the harmful effects of this.
Yeah. And so if you're an adult and want to get this conversation to your young people, whether that's at a school, after school group, a church, any sort of place where young people hang out, we've got a program to navigate these exact conversations to help young people understand the decisions they make and be able to have all the info to make the decisions they want to and not be led into something that they don't know the outcome of.
And so you can go right on our website, redlightrebellion.org, and hit up our digital program. So if you are a teacher or a parent or a youth leader, you've got a group of students that you can facilitate a program to and talk about all of these dynamics, go ahead and book up a discovery call with us. We would love to be able to hop on, share more about the program and see if it can fit for your context. And if you want to look up research or are a parent that wants to keep your kids safe online, Gail's website is absolutely amazing. It's culturereframed.org. They've got powerful stats. 1 billion young people are exposed to porn globally. 1 in 3 see hardcore porn by age 12. 88% of porn scenes contain violent images. And guys, they've got like a whole entire parent course to be able to like, how do I even talk to my kids like about all of this? They've got curriculum for schools. Her program is amazing. You can even look up like the resources and the database. They have an academic library. If you're like, hey, what's the research behind all of this? They've got you taken care of.
So book a discovery call with us at Red Light Rebellion and go check out Gail Dines at Culture Reformed, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.